Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the 2013 Wyatt harness boots by Saint Laurent Paris. If you've been following the brand for a while, you probably picked up on a little hype around the 2013 collection. This collection was revolutionary, changing streetwear for the years to come and influencing a lot of styles that trickled down into other brands. However, for all of its achievements and accomplishments, as celebrated as the 2013 collection is to date, it does not come without its caveats, and the harness boots are no exception. Today I'm going to show you what happened to my 2013 Ochre Wyatt harness boots. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about it, and then at the very end, I'm going to tell you if I regret buying them. Alright, let's jump right into it. There is a general consensus among the owners of the 2013 harness boots that there are two main flaws or faults with the boot, both of which have now happened to my pair. The first of the two is the way the outsole is glued on. It is not a Blake stitch, it is cemented on. This means that when you get to a certain number of miles on your boots, and it does depend on how you wear it too, the outsole will start separating from the boot. However, it's important to say that this is an easy fix. If you take your boots to a cobbler, they can stitch the sole back on. I've actually had my pair since 2014, and I didn't see any separation until this year. So that's about 6 years later. So when the separation occurred, I figured, okay, it's long overdue. This is something that happens to 2013 harness boots. It's the reality of a cemented sole, and it is easily fixable. I simply took it to a cobbler, and he was able to stitch the outsole back onto the upper. It did not compromise the integrity or aesthetic of the boot on the outside at all. When you look at it from the outside, it looks exactly the same as it did before the outsole came apart, before the stitching. The only noticeable difference now is when you reach inside the boot, you can feel the stitches along the edge. So have no fear, everyone. These boots are meant to last one way or another. If it does start separating, you just need to bring it to a cobbler. And if anything, your boot will feel better than it did before. I know that when I got my boots back, they felt more secure, more comfortable, and now I can wear them confidently, knowing that the separation won't occur again. However, for the price point of the boot, I could totally understand why someone would be upset about the separation happening in the first place. Well, there is some good news to that. As far as I know, after 2014, the boots became Blake stitched, and they were no longer cemented on. So if you own a pair of harness Wyatt boots, starting from 2015 to present, you should have a boot that is Blake stitched. But you can always check by reaching inside and you should feel stitching along the edges. If you don't, it's okay, and I want to reassure you, as well as anyone who owns a pair of 2013 harness boots, that it is an easy fix, and as long as you're taking care of your upper, your boots can last a very long time. Mine have lasted 6 years and they're still going on strong. Okay, moving on. The second faulty thing is the harness. Let me be clearer, it's actually the hardware on the harness. From personal experience, while I do appreciate the snap buttons, they do provide a tight fit and a secure lock that means your harness will not come undone no matter how you're walking or running or moving about. It does mean that you have to be careful when you're doing and undoing your harness. When you pull hard, it is the perfect recipe to do some damage to that snap button. If you guys are unfamiliar with how the harness mechanism works, I'm going to show you how to do and undo the harness boots right now. So before you can even unzip the boot, you'll need to undo the harness. By pulling on this tab, you can open the harness and undo the strap. But be careful. Exerting too much force on the surface area of the harness increases the chances of breaking the snap button. The eyelet and the socket won't work anymore. And even if you save these parts, the snap button is not reusable. Alright, so I guess the rule of thumb, no pun intended, is just to be careful when you're pulling on the harness. However, sometimes you can be very careful and things will still happen. What do you do then? So when the snap button broke on my boots, it wasn't in the context of anything intense. I wasn't pulling any harder than I usually do that day. I wasn't pulling from a different angle. I wasn't monkeying around. I wasn't doing anything that I don't normally do. And they still broke. When this happens, you can no longer wear the boot. The strap will be hanging, and when you're walking, it'll drag across the ground. You could throw a rubber band or a hair tie or something around the strap to get by if you really needed to wear them that day, I suppose. But these are short-term fixes to a long-term problem. There are a couple of things I could have done at this point. The first thing I could have done is simply brought it to a cobbler and had the button replaced. It would be super easy, super doable, and the strap would be 100% functional, just like it was before, no difference. However, the one thing about that is It's a question of whether or not your cobbler has a button that matches your other button identically. I'm definitely, admittedly, a stickler for those sorts of things, so I knew for me, I wasn't going to settle for a snap button that did not match identically with the other boot. Now, given that this is a 2013 boot, my chances of calling the YSL boutique and asking them for replacement hardware, replacement snap button, I'm not sure if they would still have the specific size and color that I would need. I did end up contacting my personal sales associate from the SLP boutique that I go to, and I had thought that maybe I could bring my boots in so we could look at it together and order the parts. However, this took place all around the time that lockdown started happening around where I live, so going to the store was no longer a viable option. And I also simply didn't feel very motivated to contact YSL customer service or the factory to pursue and find a snap button that I was pretty confident didn't exist anyway. The next thing I suppose I could have done is look for the snap button myself. Finding merchants who specialize in selling hardware parts, zippers, rivets, and of course snap buttons. But to be completely honest, when this happened, and even before it happened, while I was still expecting it to happen, I was already leaning strongly towards one decision above all the others. I knew that if this were ever to happen, I would want to cut the harness off completely. Now, before I go on, I hope it's clear by now that you do not, I repeat, you do not need to do what I did. You do not need to cut the harness off. If your harness breaks and the snap button is the problem, it is an easy fix. In fact, it's even easier with the newer boots because they come with replacement hardware. From what I've seen, they should come with a spare snap button in the case that this exact situation transpires. So now you might be wondering, well, if you had a spare snap button that was identical to the other boot and you could restore them, would you? My answer would still actually be an unwavering no. Let's talk about why. I've had the harness Ochre boots for about 6 years now, and although they are completely classic at this point, and I really do love them, but I saw this as an opportunity to get something new, to have a brand new boot without having to pay the full price of a brand new boot. So in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I've had the Ochre harness boots for 6 years now. If I remove the harness, I could create sort of an Ochre side zip or something that emulates the Ochre cowboy boots, which are, oh my gosh, those are beautiful and super rare, and I'll have to show you guys a pair of those in the next video or something. Those are amazing. But to reiterate, basically what I'm saying is I've had the harness Ochre boots for 6 years. This was an opportunity to transform them into a new boot that I could have for the next 6. So I took my boots to my cobbler and we had a very thorough discussion about what it was that I wanted to do to the boots. I asked a lot of questions and he gave a lot of answers, to the point that I knew exactly what to expect in the end if he goes through with it. I do not recommend trying this at home unless you are experienced with boot making and the ins and outs of how to deconstruct or reverse engineer a boot and put it back together again. I do not recommend this. Your results will vary. For anyone else who might be inspired to do this, I do recommend that you stay and watch this video to the end to see if you really want to do something like this. And if you do, make sure you have that thorough conversation with your cobbler so you know what to expect. If you do not feel like you can trust your cobbler, or you're going to someone new for the first time and they're not very good at communicating what's going to happen to your boots, or you don't feel reassured, don't do it. Not every cobbler does things the same way, so what I'm saying is be careful. Alright, so the way that the harness works is it's tucked in between the upper suede and the outsole. If you just cut it off, you'll have the extra material still wedged in between the upper suede and the outsole. So what my cobbler did is he went in, he pulled apart the upper suede from the outsole, took the harness out like surgery, and then reattached the parts. Literally, when I went to go pick up the boots and I asked him how it went, he said the operation was successful. So let me show you guys what it looks like.
If all I had was money, I'd be broke. Don't give me nothing else, just give me love. I just can't deny it anymore. I just want your love and give me love. And I said maybe you're the one. Yeah. But baby, I've been burned before. She said, baby, don't you run. Let's stay and see what's in store. And lately I've been waking up alone, but with some...
Alright, so now that I've shown you guys what the boots look like in hand, I want to give you a chance to see them on feet. Because again, I think what we did here, what the cobbler did for my boots, is he totally transformed them from harness Wyatt boots to something completely different. It gives me cowboy Wyatt vibes, it gives me the side zip vibes, and it's a completely different look. It's more streamlined, it's sleeker, it doesn't have the bulk of that harness, which isn't a bad thing, but it's a different style for a different occasion. And Saint Laurent never made a boot like this. They never made an Ochre side zip with a chunky zipper. I believe I have seen an Ochre side zip with a smaller, more modest zip, but the only Ochre side zips with a chunky zipper are the 2013 Cowboy Wyatt boots with the incredible Western stitching design on the vamp. I think what I did to the Ochre harness Wyatt boots really emulates that style, borrows from it, and I mean, looks like it even from far away, because you can't exactly tell whether or not the Western stitching is there on the vamp. And the heel's the same and everything else is the same. The shape of the last is the same. So it looks convincing. It just really fits the bill for me. So to reiterate, I think the transformation was a complete success. I am over the moon about the results. I love this new style. Do I miss having the harness? No, not at all. And I'm not sure if it's just in my mind or not, but I do think that they're even more comfortable than they were with the harness. And with the added topi on the bottom, it really just looks like a brand new boot all around. I think that the boots have a brand new life to them. They have a second wind, and not that they looked bad before, but now they're a completely different boot, and I'm excited about the novelty of them. So the last thing I want to talk about is whether or not I regret buying the 2013 boots, and would I buy them again, knowing what I know now, knowing that they have two main faults that we talked about. The answer is no regrets here. I would completely do it again in a heartbeat. The Ochre color is incomparable. Even now, 6 years later, I haven't seen a shade of brown that I like a little bit more. And there's something about the size of the shaft and the width of the vamp, especially the width of the vamp, that's incredibly underrated. A lot of people will talk about the size of the shaft and how they're slimmer. It creates for a seamless transition from your leg to your boot. However, nobody really talks about or spotlights the vamp. There is a notable difference, you guys. No one's talked about it, but the width of the vamp had a more natural looking progression from the vamp to the toe box in the 2013 boots. If you notice in later seasons, if you can get an aerial view looking down at your feet when you're wearing your boots, later boots have a really wide vamp that goes to a very skinny toe, that almond toe. The toe hasn't changed, but the width of the vamp has. It's like you're comparing the letter U to the letter V. 2013 boots are like the letter V, and when you're looking down at your feet, your vamp is narrow and it goes to an almond toe. Whereas the later seasons, it's more like the letter U, where the width starts wide and is wide for a while before it curves into the almond toe. So just for those reasons alone, I think despite the setbacks that might come with a 2013 edition boot, I still vouch for them. While the problems might be inevitable and it's just a matter of time, they are not things that you cannot get fixed. And when they are fixed, and if you continue to care for them the right way, they will last you a long time. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video entertaining, informative, or useful. If you liked the video, please hit like and subscribe for more videos to come. Hit the notification bell, leave a comment down below, and let me know if the snap button on your boots, if this has ever happened to them, and what you plan on doing about it. Tell everyone actually what season your boots are from, so we can know if this happens more commonly to one season over another, and we can all learn from each other. One last thing, if you guys don't know about my Instagram, Instagram. Follow me at James in the Giant Closet. I post there daily. I post on there much more often than I do on YouTube, of course. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for your support.